The encounter. On the bustling streets of Chicago, the sound of sirens occasionally pierced the air. But for Officer Jake Harrison, these sounds were often accompanied by the warmth of familiar faces. He had been on the force for over a decade, earning the trust of the community through his unwavering commitment to safety. Each morning, he donned his uniform not just as a badge of authority, but as a symbol of protection and comfort. He often patrolled the neighborhoods, stopping to greet shop owners, children playing on sidewalks, and the elderly sitting on their porches. Today, however, the sun was hidden behind a thick layer of clouds, casting a gray shadow over the streets. Jake felt an unsettling change in the atmosphere, as if the city was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. As he walked past an old park, he spotted a small figure emerging from the shadows. The boy was no older than 10, with dirty, tattered clothes that hung loosely on his frail frame. His hair was unkempt, and his eyes, wide and terrified, seemed to hold a universe of pain. Jake's instincts kicked in as he approached the child, kneeling down to his level, his heart heavy with concern. "Hey there, buddy," Jake said softly, hoping to ease the boy's evident fear. "What's your name?" The boy hesitated, glancing around nervously, as if expecting someone to jump out from behind the trees. "Jamal," he finally whispered, his voice barely audible over the rustling leaves. Jake smiled gently. "That's a strong name, Jamal. What are you doing out here all by yourself?" Jamal fidgeted, pulling a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket. His small hand trembled as he extended it toward Jake. I need help," he stammered, his voice breaking. Jake took the note, careful not to frighten the boy further. As he unfolded it, his heart raced. The scrawl was hurried and desperate, detailing a scene that would haunt him for years to come. It spoke of a woman in danger, trapped with a violent man, a situation Jamal had witnessed from the shadows. "What's this about, Jamal?" Jake asked, maintaining his calm demeanor, even though a knot of urgency twisted in his stomach. The boy pointed down the street toward an old, crumbling building. "It's over there. Please, you have to help her." Without wasting a moment, Jake activated his radio. "Dispatch, I need backup at the corner of Elm and 5th. Possible domestic violence in progress. Send units now." He looked back at Jamal, who was shifting anxiously from foot to foot. "Stay here, Jamal. I'm going to check it out." But as Jake turned to sprint toward the building, he noticed the boy's face contoured with fear. "Wait, I can't stay here." "Why not?" Jake asked, pausing to look back at him. Jamal's eyes darted around the street, scanning for unseen threats. "What if he sees me? What if he comes for me too?" Understanding flooded Jake's mind. The boy wasn't just scared for the woman, he was scared for his own life. "All right, then stay close to me. You can help me find her," Jake replied, his voice steady. "But you have to trust me." With a deep breath, Jamal nodded. He fell into step beside Jake, who could feel the tension radiating from the boy. They made their way to the building, Jake's heart pounding in his chest. Each step felt heavy with the weight of responsibility. As they approached the entrance, Jake's instincts kicked into overdrive. He noticed the chipped paint on the door, the flickering light above, and the distant sounds of raised voices coming from within. "Stay behind me," he instructed Jamal, who nodded, his eyes wide with fear. Pushing the door open, Jake stepped into the dimly lit hallway, the air thick with tension. The voices grew louder, and he could make out words, shouting, pleading. Jake's senses heightened, every nerve in his body was alert. He moved cautiously, his training guiding him as they approached a door at the end of the hall. Jamal clung to the wall, trembling. Jake turned back to him, kneeling once more. "Are you ready for this?" he asked, his voice low and reassuring. I don't know," Jamal admitted, his voice cracking. "We're going to help her, I promise," Jake said, locking eyes with the boy. "But I need you to stay brave, okay?" Jamal nodded, though fear still danced in his eyes. Jake took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. He gently pushed the door open, revealing a scene that would forever change their lives. Inside, the chaos was immediate. A woman was backed against the wall, her eyes wide with terror. A man, broad-shouldered and menacing, towered over her, his voice a low growl as he shouted accusations. "You think you can just walk away from me? You're nothing without me." The woman's lips trembled as she looked to the floor, clearly terrified. Jake's heart sank. This is it, he thought. We need to act fast. Chicago PD. Step away from her, Jake shouted, his voice booming with authority. The man turned, surprise flashing across his face before morphing into anger. "Who the hell do you think you are?" he sneered, taking a step forward, fists clenched. "Back off," Jake demanded, positioning himself protectively in front of the woman. "You're in trouble now. You need to leave." As Jake spoke, he noticed Jamal standing frozen in the doorway. "Jamal," he called, "get back. This isn't safe for you." But before Jamal could react, the man lunged at Jake, furious and desperate. The air crackled with tension as the officer braced himself for the confrontation. Adrenaline surged through him. He had trained for moments like this, but nothing could prepare him for the raw emotion radiating from the boy behind him. "Stay close to the door, Jamal," Jake shouted, dodging the man's wild swing. He could see the fear etched on Jamal's face, and it fueled his determination. The fight unfolded swiftly, a chaotic flurry of movement. The man was strong, but Jake's training and experience guided him. He countered the attacks, his focus unwavering as he sought to subdue the assailant without escalating the violence further. In the midst of the struggle, Jake caught a glimpse of Jamal. The boy's wide eyes reflected not just fear, but a flicker of hope, and it ignited something within Jake. This was more than just a fight. It was about protecting a life, about giving Jamal the safety he had been denied for far too long. With a final surge of strength, Jake managed to pin the man against the wall, his hand gripping the assailant's wrist firmly. "You're done," he said, his voice low and steady. "You're going to answer for this." As he called for backup, he felt the weight of the situation settling in. Jamal, who had been watching in silence, stepped forward cautiously. "Is she okay?" he asked, his voice trembling. Jake glanced back at the woman, who was now slowly regaining her composure. "You're safe now," he assured Jamal. "You did the right thing by telling me." The sirens of police cars grew closer, the lights flashing outside illuminating the dark corners of the building. In that moment, as the tension began to dissipate, something shifted within Jamal. He had taken a stand against the darkness he had lived with for so long. As backup entered, securing the scene and ensuring the woman's safety, Jake knelt beside Jamal, who was still processing everything. "You're brave, Jamal," he said, sincerity dripping from his words. "You saved a life today." For the first time, Jamal allowed a small smile to form on his lips, a flicker of hope shining through the fear. "I didn't want her to get hurt," he admitted, his voice steadier now. And in that moment, Jake realized that they had both been fighting their own battles. Jamal against the shadows of his past, and Jake against the fears that came with his duty. Together, they had forged an unbreakable bond, one that would carry them through the struggles yet to come. A new dawn. The sun began to break through the clouds the next morning, casting a warm glow over the city. Officer Jake Harrison stood outside the precinct, the events of the previous night replaying in his mind. The woman, now safe, had given a statement, and the assailant was in custody. But the true story that lingered with him was that of Jamal, the boy who had risked everything to speak up. Jake had arranged for Jamal to be taken to a nearby shelter, a place that provided support and resources for homeless youth. But even as he drove to the shelter, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that Jamal needed more than just a temporary haven. He needed stability, guidance, and a chance to escape the cycle of despair that had held him captive for so long. Upon arriving at the shelter, Jake stepped inside and was greeted by the scent of fresh coffee and the faint sounds of laughter from the common area. A few teenagers were gathered around a table, playing cards, their laughter a stark contrast to the darkness Jamal had faced. He spotted Jamal sitting alone in a corner, his small frame hunched over as he stared at the floor. "Hey, Jamal," Jake said gently, approaching the boy. "How are you doing?" Jamal looked up, his eyes still filled with uncertainty. "I don't know," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's okay to feel that way," Jake reassured him, sitting down next to him. "What you did last night took a lot of courage. You saved that woman's life." Jamal shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "But what if he comes back? What if he finds me?" Jake leaned in closer, lowering his voice. "You're safe here. The police are going to make sure that he can't hurt you or anyone else. But we need to talk about what happens next. You don't have to go back to living on the streets." "What do you mean?" Jamal asked, looking up with a mixture of hope and skepticism. "I know a few people who can help you. There are programs that can provide you with a stable place to stay, education, and even counseling if you need it. You don't have to face this alone," Jake explained, feeling a flicker of determination ignite within him. Jamal's brow furrowed in thought. "But what if I don't want to?" he murmured. "What if I just want to go back to being on my own?" Jake sighed, understanding the boy's hesitation. "I get it. It's scary to trust people, especially after everything you've been through. But think about this. When you were on the streets, you had to look out for yourself, right? It was always about survival. But now you have a chance to build something better for yourself. You can have a life that isn't just about surviving." Jamal remained silent, his gaze distant. Jake could see the wheels turning in the boy's mind, weighing the risks and rewards of making a change. "I know it's hard to believe right now," Jake continued, "but there are people who care about you and want to help. I'm one of them. You don't have to do this alone." As they spoke, a woman approached them, a counselor from the shelter named Emily. She had a warm smile that seemed to light up the room. "Hi there. You must be Jamal. I've heard so much about you already," she said, kneeling down to his level. Jamal looked up, his expression still guarded. "Hi," he replied. Emily's eyes sparkled with empathy. "I want you to know that you're in a safe place now. We're here to help you figure out what you want to do next. We can set you up with a bed, food, and even help you get back to school if that's something you're interested in." Jamal's face showed flickers of curiosity, yet he remained hesitant. "School," he echoed, as if the word were foreign to him. "Yes, you have the chance to learn and to find out what you're passionate about," Emily encouraged. "Education can open so many doors for you, Jamal. It's a step toward a better future." Jake watched as the boy's expression began to shift. There was a flicker of interest in his eyes, but fear still held him back. He remembered the last time Jamal had shown signs of hope, the determination that propelled him to take action when he witnessed the domestic violence. "This is a moment, Jamal," Jake said gently. "You have a chance to turn things around, just like you turned things around for that woman. You can be brave again." Jamal's brow furrowed in thought, and for the first time, he began to entertain the idea of a different life. "I don't know. It's just so hard to trust people," he admitted. "I understand," Jake replied, his voice steady and reassuring. "But sometimes the hardest thing is the most important thing to do. You don't have to make a decision right now, but I want you to think about it. You're worth it, Jamal. You deserve a chance." As the morning progressed, Jamal remained at the shelter, surrounded by new faces and the hum of life around him. Emily guided him through the intake process, ensuring he felt comfortable and safe. Jake stayed for a while, talking to the staff and making sure that Jamal was in good hands before finally stepping back into the street. Outside, the sun shone brighter, casting a warm glow over the city. Jake took a moment to breathe in the fresh air, contemplating the shift he had witnessed in Jamal. He realized that what the boy needed most was time and patience, a chance to heal and discover his worth. As days turned into weeks, Jake made it a point to check in on Jamal regularly. The boy was adapting to life at the shelter, slowly opening up to the staff and other residents. He attended workshops that introduced him to various skills, from cooking to computer literacy, but what excited him most was the art program that allowed him to express himself creatively. One afternoon, as Jake visited the shelter, he found Jamal in the common room, surrounded by canvases and paint. The boy was lost in concentration, his brow furrowed as he mixed colors on his palette. The vibrant hues splattered across the canvas spoke of emotions that had been bottled up for far too long. Joy, pain, hope, and a longing for freedom. "Hey there, Picasso," Jake called out with a smile. "What are you working on?" Jamal looked up, his eyes lighting up. "I'm painting," he said, excitement bubbling in his voice. "It's my story. I'm trying to show how I feel." Jake approached, taking a closer look at the painting. "It's incredible, Jamal. You have a real talent." "Thanks." Jamal beamed, pride swelling within him. "I never thought I could do something like this." "Art has a way of bringing out the best in us," Jake said, encouraging him further. "It's a powerful way to share your experiences and connect with others. I can see how much it means to you." Jamal nodded, his expression shifting to one of determination. "I want to keep painting. I want to tell my story and maybe help other kids who are going through the same stuff." Jake's heart swelled with pride for the boy. "That's an amazing goal, Jamal. You could inspire so many people with your art." As the weeks continued, Jamal flourished in the supportive environment of the shelter. He made friends with other residents, shared his story, and found strength in vulnerability. The shadows of his past still lingered, but they no longer defined him. With each brushstroke on canvas, he reclaimed a piece of himself that had been lost for so long. Jake often visited the shelter, not only to check in on Jamal, but also to learn from him. He had witnessed firsthand the power of resilience and the strength it took for Jamal to confront his fears. The bond they had formed grew deeper as they shared their stories, each finding solace in the other's presence. One day, during one of Jake's visits, Jamal had an idea. "Can I do an art show?" he asked, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "I want to show people my paintings and share my story. Maybe it can help someone else." "Absolutely. That's a fantastic idea," Jake replied, enthusiasm filling his voice. "We can set up a small exhibition here at the shelter. I'll help you spread the word." With Jake's support, Jamal began preparing for the art show. He worked tirelessly, creating pieces that represented his journey, his struggles, his fears, and ultimately, his triumphs. Each painting was a testament to his resilience and a beacon of hope for others who felt lost. The day of the exhibition arrived, and the shelter buzzed with energy. Residents and community members filled the space, their eyes wide with wonder as they took in Jamal's artwork. The walls were adorned with vibrant colors, each piece telling a different part of his story. As Jake stood beside Jamal, who was nervously adjusting the display, he felt a swell of pride. "Look at all these people who came to support you," he said. "You've made an impact already." Jamal's heart raced as he glanced around the room, taking in the smiles and the admiration reflected in their eyes. "I can't believe this is happening," he whispered, a mixture of disbelief and joy washing over him. When it was time for Jamal to speak, Jake encouraged him to take a deep breath and share his journey. The room fell silent as Jamal stepped forward, clutching the edge of the table for support. "Hi, everyone. My name is Jamal," he began, his voice trembling. "I used to think I was just a kid from the streets, that my life didn't matter. But I learned that my story is important. I faced a lot of hard things, but art helped me express what I feel and find my voice." As he spoke, Jake could see the transformation happening before his eyes. The boy who had once been so afraid to trust had now taken a step toward empowerment. Jamal continued, sharing his experiences and the emotions behind each painting. He spoke of fear, loneliness, and survival, but also of hope, courage, and the beauty of friendship. When he finished, the room erupted in applause. Tears glistened in Jamal's eyes as he realized the impact of his words. For the first time, he felt seen, understood, and valued. Jake stepped forward, placing a supportive hand on Jamal's shoulder. "You're incredible, Jamal. Your story will inspire others, and you've taken a brave step in sharing it." Jamal beamed, overwhelmed by the support surrounding him. He realized that he was no longer alone in his fight. He had a community behind him, ready to lift him up. As the night unfolded, laughter and conversations filled the air. Jamal's art show became a celebration of resilience and hope, an event that would remain etched in the hearts of everyone who attended. That evening, as the last of the guests departed, Jake and Jamal stood outside the shelter, watching the sunset paint the sky with hues of orange and pink. "I can't believe I did that," Jamal said, still in disbelief. "You did more than that. You showed everyone that your past doesn't define your future. You're on a path to something great, Jamal," Jake replied, feeling a deep sense of pride for the boy standing beside him. In that moment, Jamal understood that he had the power to shape his own destiny. He was not just a homeless boy. He was an artist, a survivor, and a beacon of hope for others. And with each new day, he would continue to paint his story, one brushstroke at a time, forging a new beginning filled with possibilities, trials, and triumphs. The weeks that followed Jamal's art show were filled with an exhilarating mix of hope and challenge. As spring began to awaken the city of Chicago, the air buzzed with a sense of renewal. For Jamal, this season brought not only budding flowers but also fresh opportunities. He found himself at a crossroads, where the shadows of his past began to lift, revealing paths he had never dared to imagine. In the days after the exhibition, Jamal continued to immerse himself in the art program of the shelter. Emily, the counselor, worked closely with him, helping him hone his skills and encouraging him to explore different mediums. "Art can be a powerful tool for healing," she explained one afternoon as they sat surrounded by canvases and paintbrushes. "It can help you express emotions you might not even realize you have." With Emily's guidance, Jamal delved into various forms of art: drawing, painting, and even sculpting. Each medium became a way to process his past, to transform pain into something beautiful. He often spent late hours in the studio, his mind racing with creativity, each stroke of the brush representing a piece of his journey. But amidst this newfound passion, Jamal faced challenges that were both external and internal. The world outside the shelter was not as forgiving as the art studio. Although he was making progress, he still encountered reminders of his former life on the streets. One day, while taking a walk to clear his head, he stumbled upon a group of familiar faces, kids he had known from the past. Their laughter echoed through the alleyways, but it was accompanied by an air of tension that brought back memories he wished to forget. "Hey, look who it is," one of the boys called out, smirking. "Jamal, the artist. You think you're too good for us now." Jamal felt a rush of anxiety flood his chest. The boy's words were laced with mockery, a painful reminder of his struggles. He stood frozen, the past clawing at him. Would they see him as weak for wanting to change? Would they drag him back into a life he had fought so hard to escape? Ignoring the boy's taunts, he took a deep breath and walked past them, determination fueling his steps. He couldn't afford to look back. He had fought too hard for this second chance, and he wasn't about to let anyone take it away. When he returned to the shelter, Jake was waiting for him. The officer had become a steadfast figure in Jamal's life, offering support and guidance whenever the boy felt lost. Seeing the unease etched across Jamal's face, Jake approached him with concern. "What's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost." Jamal hesitated before finally admitting, "I saw some kids from my old neighborhood. They were making fun of me for being at the shelter and doing art." Jake nodded, understanding the pain in Jamal's voice. "It's tough, I know. Sometimes people don't understand the choices we make, but you have to remember why you're here. You're doing something incredible by pursuing your passion. But what if they think I'm a coward for wanting to change?" Jamal asked, his voice trembling with uncertainty. Change isn't for the faint of heart. It takes real courage to step away from what you've always known, Jake replied firmly. You're not a coward. You're brave for wanting a better life. Those kids don't define you. You define yourself through your actions. Jamal thought about Jake's words, feeling a flicker of strength spark within him. He knew that if he wanted to move forward, he needed to let go of the weight of others' opinions. You're right, he said finally. I can't let them pull me back. I want to keep moving forward. With that renewed determination, Jamal focused on his art and the opportunities that lay ahead. The shelter began organizing art workshops for local youth, allowing Jamal to share his passion with others. He found joy in teaching, showing kids how to express themselves through creativity. Watching them discover their own talents ignited a fire within him, reminding him of the impact art had on his life. However, with newfound responsibilities came added pressure. Jamal often felt overwhelmed, balancing his own artistic pursuits with the desire to mentor others. One evening, while preparing for an upcoming workshop, he sat down with Emily, who noticed the weight on his shoulders. Jamal, you've been doing an incredible job with the kids, but I can see that you're also feeling the pressure, Emily said gently. I just want to help them, Jamal replied, frustration creeping into his voice. But it feels like so much sometimes. What if I'm not good enough? Emily smiled warmly. You're more than good enough. The fact that you care so deeply about these kids shows your strength. But remember, it's okay to take a step back and focus on your own journey too. You're still growing, and it's important to give yourself grace. Jamal took a deep breath, realizing she was right. Maybe I'm trying to do too much too quickly, he admitted. I just want to make a difference, you know. I understand. But making a difference starts with taking care of yourself, Emily said. We can work together to find a balance that feels right for you. Over the next few days, Jamal took Emily's advice to heart. He dedicated time to his own art, allowing himself to explore and experiment without the pressure of teaching. He painted for hours, losing himself in the colors and shapes, pouring his heart onto the canvas. Each piece became a reflection of his journey, a blend of past struggles and future hopes. Meanwhile, the community began to take notice of Jamal's talents. One afternoon, a local art gallery owner visited the shelter, intrigued by the buzz surrounding the youth art program. As he walked through the displays, he paused in front of one of Jamal's pieces, a powerful painting depicting a child standing at a crossroads, torn between the shadows of the past and the light of a promising future. This is remarkable, the gallery owner said, turning to Emily. Who is the artist behind this? That's Jamal, Emily replied, gesturing toward the boy who was quietly working at a nearby table. He's been a tremendous force in our program. The gallery owner approached Jamal, who looked up, surprised to see the attention directed at him. Hey there, young man. I'm really impressed by your work, the owner said, his eyes shining with genuine admiration. Thank you, Jamal replied, his heart racing. I'm just trying to tell my story through art. And you're doing an amazing job, the gallery owner said. I would love to feature some of your pieces in an exhibition at my gallery. It would be a great opportunity for you to showcase your talent and reach a wider audience. Jamal's mouth dropped open in disbelief. Are you serious? You want to show my art? Absolutely, the gallery owner affirmed, nodding enthusiastically. Your work has a raw emotion that resonates with people. It deserves to be seen. As the words sank in, Jamal felt a wave of exhilaration wash over him. This was what he had been dreaming of. A chance to share his story, to inspire others through his art. I'd love to, he exclaimed, unable to contain his excitement. Over the following weeks, Jamal worked tirelessly to prepare for the exhibition. He poured his heart and soul into each piece, capturing the essence of his experiences, struggles, and triumphs. Jake visited regularly, offering encouragement and helping Jamal navigate the logistics of the show. The night of the exhibition arrived, and the gallery was filled with vibrant energy. Friends, family, and community members gathered to celebrate Jamal's work, and the atmosphere was electric. As Jamal stood in front of his paintings, he felt a mix of nerves and anticipation. This was the moment he had worked so hard for, and he wanted to make it count. Jake arrived, beaming with pride. "Look at this place. You've done an incredible job, Jamal. You should be so proud of yourself," he said, clapping the boy on the back. "Thanks, Jake," Jamal replied, his voice shaking slightly. "I can't believe this is happening." As the evening unfolded, Jamal mingled with guests, sharing the stories behind his artwork. He watched as people were moved by his pieces, tears glistening in their eyes as they connected with the emotions he had poured into the canvases. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive, and with each conversation, he felt his confidence growing. Later in the evening, as the crowd began to thin, Jamal took a moment to step outside, needing a breath of fresh air. The cool night enveloped him, and he leaned against the gallery wall, reflecting on how far he had come. Just months ago, he had been a scared boy wandering the streets, unsure of his place in the world. Now he was an artist, a voice for those who felt voiceless. Jake joined him outside, noticing the contemplative look on Jamal's face. "You okay?" he asked. Jamal nodded, though his eyes still reflected a whirlwind of emotions. "I just can't believe this is my life now. I feel like I'm finally living, instead of just surviving." "You've earned every bit of this," Jake replied, his voice filled with warmth. "You've fought hard to change your circumstances, and it's paying off. You're an inspiration to so many." As they stood together under the starry sky, Jamal felt a sense of peace wash over him. For the first time, he saw a future filled with possibility, one where he could continue to create, to inspire, and to help others who had faced struggles similar to his own. That night marked not just the culmination of his efforts, but the beginning of a new chapter. With Jake's unwavering support and the community rallying behind him, Jamal was ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that he had the strength to rise above any challenges that lay ahead. And as the exhibition came to a close, Jamal stepped forward, ready to tell his story, one brushstroke at a time. The path to healing. As the city of Chicago continued to awaken to spring, the buzz of the art exhibition faded, but the impact of that night lingered in Jamal's heart. He was no longer just a boy from the streets. He was an artist, a storyteller, and a beacon of hope for others who felt lost. With each passing day, he worked diligently in the shelter's art studio, refining his craft and exploring new avenues for self-expression. However, the road ahead would not be without its challenges. In the aftermath of the exhibition, Jamal was invited to speak at local schools and community centers, sharing his journey and the importance of art as a tool for healing. The first time he stood in front of a group of students, he felt a mix of excitement and anxiety swirling within him. He recalled the boy who had once been too afraid to share his story and marveled at the transformation he had undergone. As he stepped into the brightly lit classroom, he noticed a sea of curious faces looking back at him. "Hi, everyone. My name is Jamal, and I'm here to talk about my journey and how art helped me find my voice," he began, his voice steadying with each word. With each story he shared, Jamal could see the impact he was having on the students. Some nodded along, while others leaned in closer, captivated by his experiences. He spoke candidly about the challenges he had faced: homelessness, fear, and the struggle to find his place in a world that often overlooked kids like him. But he also shared the beauty of discovery, how art had provided him with a canvas to paint his emotions and a community that embraced him. After his talk, a young girl approached him, her eyes shimmering with tears. "I've been through some tough times too," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I love to draw, but I never thought it could help me like that." Jamal smiled gently, recognizing the weight of her words. "It can help you heal," he assured her. "Art is powerful. It's a way to express what's inside and to connect with others who understand." This moment resonated deeply with Jamal. He realized that by sharing his story, he was not only helping others find their voice, but also continuing his own healing process. Each interaction, each conversation, became a part of his ongoing journey, a journey that intertwined his past with his present, weaving together hope and resilience. However, despite the positive momentum, Jamal occasionally found himself grappling with lingering fears and insecurities. The shadows of his past would creep back in during quiet moments, whispering doubts into his mind. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? He would think as he sat in the art studio, paintbrush poised in hand. One evening, while working late on a painting that felt particularly daunting, he felt a familiar wave of anxiety wash over him. The colors on the canvas seemed to blur together, mirroring the chaos in his mind. Frustrated, he pushed the canvas away and buried his head in his hands. Jamal. Emily's voice broke through the fog of his thoughts as she entered the studio. She had a keen sense for when he was struggling, often checking in on him during moments of doubt. I just can't do this, he admitted, his voice muffled. What if I'm just a fraud? What if all of this is just a dream? Emily knelt beside him, her expression softening with understanding. You're not a fraud, Jamal. You've come so far, and it's normal to feel overwhelmed sometimes. Healing is a process, and it's okay to have moments of doubt. But I don't want to feel this way, he replied, looking up at her with desperation. I want to be strong, to inspire others. But sometimes I feel so weak. Strength doesn't mean you never feel weak, she explained, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. True strength is acknowledging your feelings and allowing yourself to be vulnerable. It's okay to take a step back when you need to. Jamal took a deep breath, letting her words wash over him. I just wish I could let go of the past completely, he confessed. It still haunts me sometimes. That's part of the journey, Jamal. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning to live alongside those memories, Emily said. Art can help you with that. It's a way to process those feelings, to transform them into something beautiful. Feeling a glimmer of hope, Jamal slowly picked up his paintbrush again. You're right, he said, determination starting to surface. I need to channel these feelings into my art, instead of letting them control me. As he began to paint, he felt a cathartic release. The brush glided across the canvas, transforming his anxiety into vibrant strokes of color. Each swirl represented a feeling, a moment of fear, and a flicker of hope. With every stroke, he felt the weight of his past begin to lift, replaced by a sense of empowerment. The following week, the shelter organized an art therapy workshop for kids from the community, and Jamal volunteered to lead the session. He had seen the positive impact art had on his own life, and he wanted to share that with others who might be feeling lost. As the children gathered in the studio, Jamal felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. Hey, everyone. I'm Jamal, and today we're going to explore how art can help us express our feelings, he said, his voice steady despite the flutter in his stomach. He started by sharing his own story, emphasizing the importance of vulnerability and creativity. Art is like a friend who listens without judgment. It can help us express what we might not have the words for, he explained. The kids listened intently, their eyes wide with curiosity. Jamal guided them through various exercises, encouraging them to draw or paint whatever came to mind. As they worked, he walked around, offering encouragement and sharing tips, creating a safe space where they felt comfortable exploring their emotions. One girl named Mia, who had been unusually quiet, caught Jamal's attention. She sat in the corner, staring at a blank canvas, her pencil hovering above it. What's holding you back? Jamal asked gently. Maya looked up, her voice barely a whisper. I don't know how to start. I'm scared it won't be good enough. Jamal smiled, remembering his own struggles with self-doubt. Art isn't about being perfect. It's about expressing yourself. Just put your pencil to the canvas and see where it takes you. There are no wrong answers. After a moment's hesitation, Mia nodded and began to draw. As she let her pencil flow freely, Jamal felt a sense of pride swell within him. He was witnessing the transformative power of art in action, helping others find their voice just as he had. At the end of the workshop, the room was filled with laughter and chatter as the kids proudly showcased their creations. Jamal felt a warmth in his heart, knowing he had made a difference in their lives. The experience reinforced his belief in the healing power of creativity and his own journey. In the following months, Jamal continued to balance his art with mentoring other children at the shelter. The feedback he received from both the kids and Emily was overwhelmingly positive, and he realized that he was not only helping them, they were helping him too. As he shared his experiences and listened to theirs, Jamal found himself growing stronger. He learned to confront his fears, not just through his art, but through genuine connections with those around him. Each story shared became a thread weaving together a tapestry of resilience and hope. One afternoon, after a particularly successful workshop, Jake stopped by the shelter to check in on Jamal. "Hey, champ. I heard you killed it today," he said, his voice filled with excitement. "Thanks, Jake. It was amazing," Jamal replied, beaming with pride. The kids really connected with the art exercises. It felt good to see them open up. Jake grinned, his eyes shining with admiration. "I'm so proud of you, Jamal. You're doing incredible work. You're not just an artist. You're a role model." Jamal felt a rush of warmth at Jake's words. "It's all thanks to you for believing in me," he said sincerely. "You've been there every step of the way." Jake chuckled, shaking his head. "No, it's all you, kid. You've worked hard to get to where you are. Just remember to keep taking care of yourself. It's okay to lean on others when you need to." As they talked, Jamal realized that the support he had received was just as crucial to his healing as his art. It was a lesson he would carry with him as he continued his journey, one that intertwined vulnerability, courage, and the importance of community. With each passing day, Jamal grew more confident in his identity as an artist and mentor. He began planning a community art project, a mural that would showcase the stories of the youth at the shelter. He envisioned it as a collaborative effort where each person could contribute their unique voice to a larger narrative. Jamal presented the idea to Emily and the other staff members at the shelter, who were thrilled about the prospect. This could be an amazing way for everyone to come together and share their experiences, Emily said, her enthusiasm palpable. With their support, Jamal organized meetings to brainstorm ideas for the mural. He encouraged everyone to share their stories, emphasizing that the project would celebrate resilience and hope. Each brushstroke will represent a journey, a struggle, and ultimately, a victory, he explained, his passion evident. As the project took shape, Jamal found himself more inspired than ever. He gathered a group of young artists, including Nia, and they began sketching designs for the mural. Jamal was amazed at the creativity that blossomed within each child. Their ideas reflected their experiences, both painful and joyful, and it was a beautiful reminder of the power of community. In the weeks leading up to the mural's unveiling, Jamal and the kids spent hours painting the wall of the shelter, laughter and chatter filling the air as they worked. Each day brought new challenges, but they faced them together, supporting one another and celebrating their progress. Finally, the day of the unveiling arrived, and the excitement in the air was palpable. The shelter was filled with friends, family, and community members eager to witness the culmination of their hard work. Jamal stood in front of the crowd, heart racing, as he prepared to speak. "Thank you all for being here today," he began, his voice steady. "This mural represents the strength, resilience, and stories of everyone who has walked through these doors. Each brushstroke tells a tale of struggle and hope. We've all faced challenges, but together, we've found ways to heal and grow." As he spoke, he glanced over at Nia, who stood beside him, beaming with pride. "I want to thank everyone who helped bring this project to life, especially the kids who poured their hearts into this mural. You are all incredible artists, and your stories matter." The crowd erupted in applause, and Jamal felt a wave of emotion wash over him. In that moment, he understood the true power of community, how it could lift individuals up, encouraging them to embrace their identities and share their stories with the world. As the curtain dropped to reveal the mural, gasps of awe filled the room. The vibrant colors danced across the wall, depicting a collage of images that represented each artist's journey. There were images of overcoming obstacles, finding joy, and embracing dreams, each detail carefully crafted, showcasing the spirit of resilience that defined the community. Jamal stood before the mural, tears brimming in his eyes. He had transformed not only his own life, but also the lives of those around him. The art had become a symbol of hope, a testament to the power of creativity and connection. As the crowd mingled and admired the mural, Jamal felt a sense of fulfillment he had never experienced before. He had come full circle, from a frightened boy on the streets to a voice of inspiration for others. That night, as he lay in bed, Jamal reflected on his journey. He had learned that healing was not a linear path. It was a winding road filled with ups and downs, triumphs and trials. And through it all, he had discovered the beauty of vulnerability, the importance of community, and the transformative power of art. With a renewed sense of purpose, Jamal closed his eyes, ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. He knew that his story was still being written, and he was excited to see where the next chapter would take him. Facing the past. As summer approached, the city of Chicago blossomed with life. And so did Jamal. With the successful mural project behind him, he found himself increasingly immersed in the creative community he had built around him. The shelter had become more than just a refuge. It was a place of belonging and inspiration. Yet beneath the surface of his flourishing life, Jamal felt the stirrings of unresolved emotions and memories that needed to be confronted. The mural's unveiling had been a significant milestone, but Jamal realized that while he had been focused on the present and future, the shadows of his past were still lurking, waiting for the right moment to resurface. He often found himself caught off guard by flashbacks of his life on the streets, moments of vulnerability that reminded him of the fragility of his journey. One day, as he was painting in the studio, he was struck by a powerful memory, a night filled with rain and desperation. He remembered being soaked to the bone, hiding under a makeshift shelter, terrified and alone. The image was so vivid that it brought tears to his eyes. He knew he couldn't keep running from these memories. It was time to confront them head-on. That evening, Jamal decided to visit the old neighborhood where he had spent most of his childhood. As he walked through the familiar streets, the sights and sounds flooded his mind with nostalgia and fear. He noticed how some buildings had crumbled while others stood tall, a reflection of the resilience and decay of his past. With each step, his heart raced. What would he find there? Would he encounter old friends or faces that reminded him of the struggles he had left behind? He had come to realize that facing these memories was an integral part of his healing process. As he reached the corner where he had spent countless nights, he paused, taking a deep breath. The alley was still there, the same one where he had witnessed violence, fear, and helplessness. He had avoided this place for so long, but now he felt a strange pull to stand his ground. "Okay, Jamal," he whispered to himself. "You can do this." Gathering his courage, he stepped into the alley. The air was heavy with the scent of damp concrete and a faint echo of laughter from children playing nearby. He leaned against the wall, allowing himself to absorb the memories that washed over him. Suddenly, a voice broke through his reverie. Well, if it isn't the artist. It was Marcus, one of the boys from his old neighborhood. Jamal's heart sank. He had dreaded this moment, knowing that some people wouldn't understand his transformation. "Hey, Marcus," Jamal replied, trying to maintain his composure. "Look at you, all fancy with your art and everything. What happened to the kid who used to roam these streets?" Marcus sneered, crossing his arms. Jamal felt anger bubbling beneath the surface, but reminded himself of Jake's words about strength and vulnerability. "I've been working on myself, Marcus. I'm trying to make a better life. Better life. You think you're too good for us now. Marcus spat, taking a step closer, his friends lingering in the background. Jamal swallowed hard. I'm not saying that at all. I just want to help others, you know. I want to show kids there's more to life than just surviving. Marcus scoffed, but Jamal stood his ground. You can make something of yourself too. You don't have to stay stuck here. For a moment, Marcus seemed taken aback. Jamal could see a flicker of confusion in his eyes. You really think that? He asked, a hint of vulnerability creeping into his voice. Yeah, I do, Jamal replied earnestly. I've been where you are. It's tough, but there's a way out if you want it. I found mine through art. The tension hung in the air, and Jamal felt his heart racing. Would this be a moment of connection or confrontation? He knew he was risking everything by speaking honestly, but he felt it was necessary. For a moment, Marcus was silent, as if considering Jamal's words. Art, ha, he muttered, looking away. I used to draw a little, but that was a long time ago. Why not pick it up again? Jamal encouraged, sensing an opening. You could join us at the shelter. We have art workshops. It might help you too. The group surrounding Marcus shifted uncomfortably, and Jamal could sense their skepticism. I don't need your pity, man, Marcus snapped, but Jamal could see the walls beginning to crack. It's not pity, Marcus. It's an opportunity. I'm trying to show you there's another way, Jamal insisted. You don't have to keep living in fear or anger. There's a whole world out there. With a frustrated grunt, Marcus turned to leave, but Jamal called out, I know it's not easy. I've had my share of struggles too. But if you ever want to talk or paint, I'm here. As Marcus walked away, Jamal felt a mix of relief and disappointment. He had faced the ghosts of his past, but the confrontation had only revealed how deeply ingrained those experiences were. He had extended a hand, but it was up to Marcus to decide whether to take it. On his way back to the shelter, Jamal reflected on the encounter. While it had been challenging, he felt empowered to stand up for his choices. He knew that not everyone would understand his journey, but he couldn't let that deter him from forging his path. Upon arriving at the shelter, he found Jake waiting for him in the common area. Hey, Jamal, you look like you've been through a storm, Jake remarked, noticing the mixture of emotions on Jamal's face. I went back to the old neighborhood today, Jamal admitted, sinking onto the couch beside Jake. I faced some people from my past. Wow, that's a big step, Jake replied, his expression shifting to one of concern. How did it go? Jamal recounted the encounter with Marcus, sharing his feelings of frustration and empowerment. I realized I can't control how others see me. I'm just trying to do my best and help others. Jake nodded, clearly proud of Jamal's progress. You're right. Sometimes people won't understand your journey, but you're setting an example. Your courage can inspire others, even if they don't realize it yet. As they spoke, Jamal felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had faced his past and emerged stronger, determined to continue his mission of helping others. He knew that healing was an ongoing process, but he was no longer afraid of confronting the memories that had shaped him. In the following weeks, Jamal focused on his art and the workshops at the shelter. He organized sessions where residents could express their experiences through painting, creating a safe space for vulnerability and healing. Each session became a cathartic release, allowing participants to share their stories and connect with one another. One evening, as the sun set and bathed the studio in a warm glow, Jamal facilitated a workshop centered around the theme of overcoming obstacles. He encouraged the participants to reflect on their struggles and how they had managed to rise above them. As everyone painted, Jamal moved through the room, offering support and encouragement. He stopped at a young girl named Layla, who was quietly working on her canvas. "What are you painting, Layla?" he asked gently. "I'm painting my mom," she said softly, her eyes filled with emotion. "She's been sick for a long time, and I miss her." Jamal felt a pang of empathy for Layla. "That's really beautiful," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "You're capturing your love for her. It's okay to feel sad about it." Layla nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I just want her to be okay again." In that moment, Jamal understood the weight of the emotions they were all carrying. Each participant was navigating their own journey, and art became a powerful outlet for expressing those feelings. He guided Layla in adding colors that represented hope and love, encouraging her to infuse her piece with all the warmth she felt for her mother. After the workshop, as the group gathered to share their artwork, Jamal watched with pride as each person opened up about their experiences. The room was filled with stories of resilience, pain, and healing, each tale woven together through their shared experiences. As Jamal spoke, he felt a deep sense of connection with everyone in the room. "Art has a way of bringing us together," he said, looking around at the group. "It allows us to express what we might not always have the words for. We're all on our own journeys, but together we can support each other and find healing." As the participants shared their artwork and stories, Jamal felt a profound shift within himself. Each moment reinforced his belief that vulnerability and connection were vital to the healing process. He had learned to embrace his own journey, and now he was helping others do the same. Days turned into weeks, and Jamal continued to pour himself into his art and mentoring. But just when he thought he had found a rhythm, life threw a curveball. One morning, he received a call from Emily, asking him to come to the shelter immediately. The tone of her voice sent a shiver down his spine. When he arrived, he found the common area filled with concerned faces. Emily met him at the door, her expression grave. "Jamal, there's something we need to talk about. It's about Marcus." Panic surged through Jamal. "What happened? Is he okay?" Emily took a deep breath. "He was in an altercation last night. It escalated quickly, and he ended up getting hurt. He's in the hospital now." Jamal's heart sank. He felt a rush of guilt wash over him. Had he pushed too hard? Had his words to Marcus fallen on deaf ears? He had wanted to help, but now it felt like everything was unraveling. "Jamal, it's important to remember that you reached out to him," Emily said, sensing his turmoil. "You did your part. Sometimes people are not ready to accept help, and that's not your fault." Jamal nodded, but the weight of the situation pressed heavily on him. He knew he needed to see Marcus, to understand what had happened, and to extend the hand of support he had tried to offer. As he made his way to the hospital, a mixture of fear and determination coursed through him. He had faced his past, and now he was ready to face this moment head-on. When he arrived at the hospital, he found Marcus's room, hesitating for a moment before stepping inside. Marcus lay on the hospital bed, bruised and bandaged. His expression was a mix of anger and pain as he glanced up at Jamal. "What are you doing here?" He spat, the defiance in his voice unmistakable. "I came to see how you're doing," Jamal replied, trying to keep his voice calm. "I'm sorry about what happened." Marcus looked away, the bitterness palpable. "You think you can just swoop in and play the hero now," he said, his voice strained. "You don't know what it's like out here." Jamal took a deep breath, steadying himself. "I may not know exactly what you're going through, but I understand struggle. I've been where you are. I want to help you, Marcus." "Help me? By what? Telling me to pick up a paintbrush?" Marcus scoffed, shaking his head. "You think that's going to change anything?" "It can change everything," Jamal replied earnestly. "Art saved my life. It gave me a way to express my feelings, to process my pain. You don't have to face this alone." For a moment, Marcus was silent, his gaze fixed on the ceiling. Jamal could see the conflict within him, the desire for connection battling against the walls he had built to protect himself. "You're right," Marcus finally said, his voice low. "I don't know how to get out of this mess." Jamal felt a rush of hope. "It starts with taking the step, Marcus. You can choose a different path. You don't have to let this define you." As the two talked, Jamal felt a glimmer of understanding pass between them. The walls that had divided them began to crumble as Marcus opened up about his own struggles, the pressures he faced, and the pain he had buried deep within. "I've always felt like I had to prove myself," Marcus admitted, his voice cracking. "I didn't want anyone to see me as weak. But maybe I don't have to do this alone." Jamal nodded, feeling the wave of compassion. "You don't. You have people who care about you. I'm here for you, and I want to help you find your way." In that moment, Jamal realized that healing was not just about confronting the past. It was also about extending a hand to others in their darkest moments. He understood that vulnerability could pave the way for connection and growth. After their conversation, Jamal left the hospital feeling a mix of relief and determination. He had opened a door for Marcus, and he hoped the young man would be willing to step through it. As he walked back to the shelter, he felt a sense of purpose solidify within him. Jamal was no longer just an artist sharing his story. He was a bridge connecting those who felt lost with the possibility of healing and hope. And as he embraced this role, he knew that his journey was far from over. There would be challenges ahead, but he was ready to face them. One brushstroke, one conversation, one connection at a time. Building bridges. The days that followed Marcus's hospital visit marked a new chapter in Jamal's life. With the vulnerability he had shown and the connection he forged with Marcus, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. Healing, he realized, wasn't just a solitary journey. It was about building bridges between individuals, allowing shared experiences to pave the way toward growth and understanding. Back at the shelter, Jamal began to brainstorm ways to extend the sense of community he had cultivated through his art. He wanted to create a platform for everyone, youths facing their own struggles, mentors willing to guide them, and community members eager to support one another. He envisioned a monthly gathering called Art and Conversations, a space where creativity could flow freely and stories could be shared. Jamal sat down with Emily to pitch his idea. "I want to create a monthly event where we can come together, share our art, and talk about our experiences," he explained, his eyes bright with excitement. It would be a safe space for everyone to express themselves. Emily's face lit up. "That's a fantastic idea, Jamal. It's a wonderful way to foster community and promote healing. Let's work together to make it happen." With Emily's encouragement, Jamal began organizing the first Art and Conversations event. He spent hours preparing flyers and reaching out to local artists, schools, and community organizations. He wanted to ensure that everyone felt welcome, regardless of their background or artistic abilities. On the day of the event, Jamal arrived early, setting up the common area with easels, tables, and an array of art supplies. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation as participants began to filter in. Young artists from the shelter mingled with local community members, creating an eclectic mix of energy. As people settled in, Jamal welcomed everyone with open arms. "Thank you all for coming. Tonight is about sharing our stories and connecting through art. There are no rules, just let your creativity flow." He guided them through a series of exercises, encouraging participants to paint or draw whatever came to mind. As colors filled the canvases, Jamal felt a sense of unity forming among the group. Laughter and conversations filled the air as stories of struggle, triumph, and resilience emerged. During a break, Jamal noticed Marcus sitting in a corner, nervously fiddling with a paintbrush. He had attended the event, albeit reluctantly, but Jamal could see the internal battle on his face. Gathering his courage, Jamal approached him. "Hey, Marcus," Jamal said, his voice gentle. "How are you feeling about all this?" "I don't know, man," Marcus admitted, glancing at the canvas in front of him. "I've never really painted before. What if I mess it up?" Jamal smiled, recalling his own fears when he first began to explore art. "It's not about perfection. It's about expressing yourself. Just let the brush move. No one is judging you here." Marcus looked up, vulnerability flickering in his eyes. "You really think that?" "I know it," Jamal replied confidently. "Everyone here is in the same boat, trying to navigate their own challenges. Just give it a shot. You might surprise yourself." Encouraged by Jamal's words, Marcus took a deep breath and dipped the brush into vibrant colors, allowing himself to experiment. As the evening progressed, Jamal moved through the room, witnessing the transformative power of art as participants opened up about their experiences, creating a tapestry of shared emotions. One participant, a young girl named Ava, shared her struggles with anxiety. "Art helps me calm down," she explained, her voice steady despite the vulnerability in her words. "When I paint, it's like the chaos in my mind quiets down." As she spoke, Jamal felt a wave of recognition. He had experienced that same sense of peace through creativity. "Exactly. Art allows us to process our emotions," he said, encouraging her further. "It's a way to turn the noise into something beautiful." As the evening unfolded, Jamal's heart swelled with pride. The event had turned into a genuine celebration of creativity and connection. Participants laughed, shared their fears, and exchanged ideas, weaving a fabric of support that wrapped around everyone present. As the night drew to a close, Jamal gathered everyone in a circle. "I want to thank you all for being here and for sharing your stories. This event was about more than just art. It was about building connections. You've all shown incredible courage tonight." The room erupted in applause, and Jamal felt tears prick at his eyes. In that moment, he understood that this was the essence of healing, coming together, embracing vulnerability, and celebrating the strength found in community. As the crowd began to disperse, Marcus approached Jamal, a newfound sense of confidence shining in his eyes. "I'm glad I came tonight," he admitted. "I didn't realize how much I needed this." Jamal smiled, feeling a surge of joy. "I'm glad you did too. Remember, this is just the beginning. We can keep building this community together." In the following months, art and conversations became a staple of the shelter. The event grew in popularity, attracting more participants and expanding beyond just painting. Musicians, writers, and dancers began to join, each sharing their talents and stories, creating a rich tapestry of creativity. Jamal felt the energy of the community around him growing stronger. He saw young artists blossom into confident individuals, and friendships blossomed as people found common ground in their struggles. The shelter transformed into a vibrant hub of creativity and support, where everyone felt a sense of belonging. However, Jamal knew that with growth came challenges. As the events gained traction, he realized he needed to secure funding and resources to sustain the programs. He began reaching out to local businesses, organizations, and potential sponsors to garner support for the shelter and its initiatives. One afternoon, as he prepared for a meeting with a local art supply store owner, he felt a mix of nerves and determination. He had seen how much the community had flourished, and he was passionate about ensuring that it continued to thrive. When he arrived at the store, he was greeted by Sarah, the owner. "Hi, Jamal. I've heard wonderful things about your programs," she said warmly. "Thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate you meeting with me," Jamal replied, settling into a chair across from her. "I wanted to discuss the possibility of partnering to support our Art and Conversations initiative." As he shared his vision, detailing the impact the program had on the community, Sarah listened intently. "I believe in what you're doing, Jamal. Art has a way of healing, and your dedication is inspiring," she said. After discussing potential collaborations and resources, Sarah leaned back in her chair, her expression thoughtful. "I'd be happy to provide art supplies for your workshops and help promote the events in my store. Art has changed lives, and I want to be a part of that." Jamal felt a wave of relief wash over him. "Thank you so much. Your support means the world to us. We want to continue providing this space for kids to express themselves." With Sarah's commitment, Jamal left the meeting feeling empowered. Each step he took to secure resources brought him closer to building the community he envisioned, a place where creativity could flourish and heal. As summer rolled into fall, Jamal's impact on the shelter continued to grow. He organized more events, including exhibitions where the young artists could showcase their work, and he initiated partnerships with local schools to involve students in collaborative projects. One particularly memorable evening, the shelter hosted a community art fair. Jamal worked alongside the youth to set up booths displaying their artwork, crafts, and performances. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement as families from the neighborhood came to support the young artists. As the fair commenced, Jamal marveled at the transformation he had witnessed within the community. Kids who had once felt lost now stood confidently beside their work, sharing their stories with visitors. The energy was infectious, laughter and conversation mingling in the air. During the event, Jamal spotted Marcus, who was helping set up his booth, displaying pieces he had created during their workshops. "You look great out there," Jamal called out, beaming with pride. "Thanks. I never thought I'd be doing something like this," Marcus replied, a hint of disbelief lacing his words. "But it feels good to show my work." Jamal nodded, feeling a swell of admiration for Marcus's journey. "You've come so far, man. I'm proud of you." As the night unfolded, Jamal took a moment to step back and soak in the scene before him. He watched as families engaged with the young artists, and he felt a sense of fulfillment wash over him. He had envisioned this, a space where creativity was celebrated and stories were shared, breaking down barriers and building connections. As the evening began to wind down, Jamal gathered everyone for a final circle. "Thank you all for being here tonight and for supporting our young artists. This community is growing stronger every day because of each of you." Cheers erupted, and Jamal felt a surge of gratitude for the connections he had nurtured. It wasn't just about art. It was about creating a network of support that could lift one another up through life's challenges. As the last guests left and the cleanup began, Jamal reflected on the journey he had taken. From the scared boy who had once wandered the streets, feeling invisible, to the confident artist and mentor who now inspired others, he felt a profound sense of gratitude for the people who had walked alongside him. In the quiet moments of cleanup, Jamal found himself thinking about the future. What more could he do to help those who were still struggling? How could he expand the reach of their programs to touch even more lives? Determined to explore new avenues, he began to brainstorm ways to engage the broader community and create partnerships that could elevate the voices of young artists. He reached out to local media outlets, schools, and organizations to spread the word about the shelter's initiatives, hoping to inspire others to join in the movement. As he lay in bed that night, Jamal felt a sense of peace wash over him. He had come a long way, but he understood that the journey was ongoing. Healing wasn't linear. It was a continuous process of connection, creativity, and community. With dreams of future projects dancing in his mind, Jamal closed his eyes, ready to embrace whatever the next chapter held. He knew he was not just creating art. He was weaving a tapestry of hope, resilience, and strength that would carry him and others through whatever life had in store.